Now that I've rambled on and on about the album, let's just attempt to dive deeper into the intricacies of each song. Before we do that, though, I want to give a quick disclaimer. Due to the nature of each song, I might have little to no say about the songs individually. It's much easier to examine the album as a whole than to study each song. By the way, the version of the album that's combined with the Vaporwave Essential Guide is not the remastered 2016 version. I'll bring up some of the songs that are, in my opinion, heavily affected by it because it's the version I'm listening to. Actually, I lied because that would involve having to remember each version of each song and the differences. Just get the remastered version. Lapton was kind enough to put it out for free. The very first song is A1, She's Waiting, and samples Africa by Toto. It starts off with xylophones fading in on a short loop before the rest of the song begins. Then, the song plays out normally for one loop. That pitched melodic voice always seems to enchant me. The instruments in the songs are soft and don't alter the calming mood set by the pitched voice. There's not a lot of reverb, making each passing note to not be too hard on the ears or cause much of a sense of solitude. But after the first loop, multiple sections start to skip and stutter. Passing those stutters causes shifts and slight speed changes. This is a great setup as this is something that is going to persist throughout the album. By letting the loop flow without editing for the first time, this sets up expectations for the next time it loops. These expectations are not met, causing a feeling of unease and predictability for first time listeners. The more it's listened to, the more the mind will try to estimate how many stutters each section experiences and when. It almost becomes a little game. A2, Angel, comes crashing in with its raspy beats and rhythmic drums. It samples Only Over You by Fleetwood Mac. The first part of the song is alive. It has its own pulse. It has upbeat intakes with deep chasms for outputs. It goes in and out. The intakes are sped up while the outputs are slowed down. There are a couple of stutters, but they feel very natural due to the beat keeping everything together. And the pitch of the song gets altered through most of it. Of course, I prefer when the parts of the songs are pitched down. The song contains plenty of reverb that is oddly enough only used on the voice. The instruments don't bounce and echoes like the singer. Having the voice like that makes it sound very ambient and otherworldly. Earphone users beware. One section has a filter, or phaser, or shifter, or whatever it is. Whatever it is, it fades from one ear to another, and it hurts my head sometimes. Nearing the end of the song, all the editing ceases, and we're just left with the original loop. Normally, this isn't the case. It almost feels like a reward for being put through the multiple highs and lows, jittering and phases. The incentive is to cool out and listen to a chill Eccojam. A3, Be Real and Dreams, is the first song to feature two in one. The first song is Too Little Too Late by JoJo, and the other one is Castle in the Sky by Ivan Dahl. Both samples have little editing other than the pitched voice, reverb, and looping. They do not do anything weird like emit static or slow down and up. Be Real somehow gives off a feeling of being underwater. When I close my eyes, it's as though I can feel the cold water on my skin as I swim with a school of fish. Off in the distance, I can see a reef inhabited by other marine life. According to a Yahoo Answers, the feeling of being underwater I'm looking for is moving in slow motion, sinking upwards. Makes sense to me. It has the most modern sample from 2006, and its instrumentals make that a dead giveaway. You can hear the artificial beat followed by other tempos and the crashing of a cymbal. There is a hint of flair to the singing, like even though it's pitched, you can still feel the oomph that JoJo put in while making the song. These little noises fill up most of the background noise in conjunction with the impact of her voice. It makes Be Real feel very energetic. The slowed down rhythm and vocals are overpowered by the feeling of being lively. If Burial was full on hyper, then Dreams is practically a vegetable in a hospital bed. It's soft, ambient, has an above average amount of reverb, and not many instruments playing in the back. The vocals are very soft and tranquil. There's simply a synth playing a very subtle note in the background. While Be Real has a lot of little noises in the back, this does not. Dreams makes me feel very lonely, like I'm in an empty room when there is nothing. This is why the voice is bouncing off the walls and that one note lasts an eternity. I'm in a void and the frequencies just fade into the nothingness I'm stuck in. Next we have... Oh wait, we haven't gotten to that album yet, so canonically it doesn't exist. Jokes aside, what can I really say about A4, Demon Roll? It samples Demon Roll by 10 Trick Point Never. Thanks who sampled for that knowledge. It samples Morphine by Michael Jackson. For a year, I never knew that there was actually any words being said. I couldn't wrap this song around my head. I thought it was backwards audio, then I thought it was a mesh of sound files that were clipped out of place. Then I thought it might have been an original piece. Then I listened to the original song and thought, why the hell did Michael Jackson put this song out? But then, listening to the non remastered version of the song, I could finally hear Demon Roll. Oh god, he's taking Demon Roll. Just like A2, this song breathes in and out, playing normally and then slowing down. It makes the song eerier than it already is, by not being able to anticipate what's coming next. There are some parts that are repeated back and forth. The last few moments make me feel like I'm biting down on a chainsaw. I can feel the engines revving up, and I feel the rumble on it. In my opinion, the edits in this song are undermined by the sheer uncanny nature of the song. Even now, as I write while the song plays in the back, I try to listen to the song, but my mind can't focus on it. I just hear the song, and my mind goes, what is this song? How do I interpret this? I hope I'm not the only one who feels this way about it. To try and help understand what I'm feeling, I'm going to talk about how the ear works. Noise is caused by vibration. The vibrations travel into the tunnel, the outer portion of your ear. The vibrations hit the eardrums. In response, the eardrum taps against the Coachella. This is basically where the vibrations get interpreted to get sent by the brain. With A4, my eardrums are beating, but the Coachella can't understand what it's listening to. After taking a chainsaw to the head, we are treated with A5, the door. It samples Everybody's Been Burned by the Birds. Simple is the way I would describe this song. Not many edits are used, and it's a short sample. There's just a metronome, an acoustic guitar, and maracas in the background. The reverb played for the instrumental adds depth and length to it that the original song lacks. The singing harmonizes amazingly with the instruments in a way that none of the other songs on the album do. It's like the vocals of the singer are just another tool to the whole song. Well, technically all vocals are instruments, but this one does it in an ambient way, and I have to attribute that to the reverb. Now being a couple songs into the album, something became apparent to me. This album has good spacing between its relaxing, simple songs and its demon rolls. One song is very ambient and euphoric, while the next one may be a little out there. A6 Alone is next. It samples Lonely by Janet Jackson. The beginning makes me feel like I'm in a fragrance shop at the mall. This is a result of that glittery noise you hear in the background. It's just one of those things you hear when you walk into such a store. Its exteriors are rose gold and people are walking around. Then someone goes to spray you out of nowhere. It seems like that undiscussed theme of anti capitalism is coming out. I'm not familiar with any of the instruments being used in the background, so I can't go too in depth with how they're used. However, this is yet another soft and relaxing song at first. We're treated to a few loops unedited. It might be hard to catch at first because the vocals blend well with the background, but there are some subtle voices. Then the song starts to skip. This isn't the typical type of skip that we've seen before. Remember that water damaged Walkman that was thrown in the wood chipper? It seems to have been very dusty and scratched as well because the song skips, so it's not supposed to do that. Lopatin perfectly recreated the way a disc skips. It's so intrusive, so aggressive, and so in your face, it's nothing that we've seen before. The song starts skipping at one line constantly, alone. This comes as a shock because the vocals have been very immersive, and now they're as violent as the skipping that's taking place. That line is uttered very harshly and stands out because of that. After all the skipping is done, there's another half of the song, and to me, it's a perfect example of the power of plunderphonics. The second half of the song is part of the same Janet Jackson song, yet it's a whole new sound, a whole new feel, it's a new experience.
A7, or Horseman, is the only song that doesn't derive its name from the lyrics of the song. The song never uses the word horseman, or E7 for that matter. Anyway, the song samples The Four Horsemen by Aphrodite's Child. Other than the terrifying lyrics about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, what stands out to me about this song is its rock influence. It has a heavy focus on its heavy drums and cymbals. The effects of the vocals are unique. While it's pitched down like the other songs, the voice sounds gargled like they're underwater. This not only fits with the aquatic feeling the album gives off, but it distinguishes the vocals from all the other sunken pitched down voices. I personally think the gargled tone sounds cool as well. A8, Make You Mine and Information samples My Love Is Waiting by Marvin Gaye in the first half, and Hearsay by Alexander O'Neal in the second half. Make You Mine has a lot going on. At first retreated to a jazzy symphony fitted with squeaky trumpets and a smooth rhythm on the keyboard. The distortion of the trumpets make them sound off-key and as though they're decaying throughout the song. It's a foreshadow of its inevitable collapse. The song loops just a few times before it begins to skip in an almost natural way. Similar to A2, the beat of the song manages to compact the flow. It begins to slow down and speed up. The increased speed surpasses the original sound of the original song, so instead of hearing Marvin Gaye's actual voice, you hear a little squeaky toy of him. Sadly, it only happens for a few seconds. I wish Lopatin experimented with sped up voices more because it really adds an extra layer of depth to his music. I think more vaporwave albums would have taken inspiration if he had did this. Back to the song, I want to highlight one moment in the first half where I keep expecting some weird edit to come in, but it doesn't. The song just sort of holds itself in one moment where I'm expecting it to skip or slow down, but it doesn't. At the end of Make You Mine, the song doesn't clean up, we aren't rewarded, but the condition of the song continues to fade, continues to rot. Information is the calm before the storm. If you've ever had someone sick in the hospital that's not expected to make a recovery, then you might have experienced a moment where they are full of energy and seem healthy. The person might even start planning for a trip. It's called an end-of-life rally. That's what information is. Make You Mine was in terrible condition and showed awful signs of decay. Information starts off perfectly. There's hardly any audio distortions or editing or skipping. While the first few loops are quite pleasant, as the song progresses, the audio starts to distort more and more. It starts off by slowing down a bit, but after every loop it gets even slower. The echoes on the vocals intensify, resulting in the song sounding like there's two people singing it. It's almost as if it's splitting at the seams. An ear-pitched ring coats the loop before the entire track is engulfed by static. This is the lowest point of the album and of Lopatin's childhood. It all comes crashing down. We've hit rock bottom. All we were left with is silence. It's often said that the best part about hitting rock bottom is that there's only one way left to go. Oh god, that's not what I was implying. The same review I read talking about Lopatin being a sad child also detailed A8 as a plummet, and that anything after that can never be worse than the actual drop. However, I have to disagree because the next song up is B1, Letters That Never Been Easy. Make sure to flip those cassette tapes over for the next half of the album. B1 samples Sweet Little Mystery by John Martin and Don't Give Up by Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush. I love Sweet Little Mystery. It makes me cry. It's full of such sweet melodrama, and I find myself sympathizing with that sweet little mystery. Letters doesn't have any of that emotion going for it. The background sounds like a phone vibrating as a result of the song pulsating. It elevates and then rests. One part of the song is layered on top of the other, not to mention that the only reverb is on high. This results in the chaotic mess. Voices fade in and out, resulting in a haunting feeling. The only sense I can make of this is that the piano keys remind me of a bowling alley, or rather just a dark alley. Don't Give Up is exactly what you need to hear at this point in the album. It's been a while since we were treated with an Eccojam. This is like a little pit stop because there's much more to come. The vocals share similar underwater effects to Horseman, but nowhere near as aggressive. In fact, the voice is very relaxed, and combined with the angelic and subtle synth, the song feels like we're close to death. There's a voice echoing off in the distance, encouraging us in this shallow, dark room to not walk towards the light. Now that we're back into the fight, we must tackle the next song. pt2, Let Her Go, and Lightning Strikes. Let Her Go samples Love TKO by Pendergrass and starts by what sounds like a chopped chord, and it just gets in your head. It has this way of implementing that noise to get stuck in there, and it just thuds until you feel yourself expecting the constant banging. When you hear you feel the force and you start repeating the lines. The song is so aggressive. There's so many twists and turns with this one because the structure is constantly changing. First one part is being looped, then another is layered over with that contorted noise to cover the bit like saran wrapping. All of these changes make the song have a sort of structure where each bit is telling its own distorted nightmare. Then it fades away. Lightning Strike samples Gypsy by Fleetwood Mac. It's the typical Eccojam we've gotten used to. Very subtle, soft background music with a calming beat. Slowed down melodic voices that relax you. Oh, and at one point Lil Wayne makes a cameo appearance in the sampling by putting the vocals in front of a fan. This one little part comes out of nowhere and could unnerve you. You have no inclination of a sudden distortion. It just happens out of nowhere. It causes the apex of the drum to start popping. B3, One More Year, samples Baker Streets by Gary Rifty, and then later samples Separate Lives by Phil Collins and Marlon Martin. The first part of the song is an Eccojams with a bit of flair to it. It's different from the others because the energy it produces. The unique sounds of the bongos and the dragging of the voices are some things that we have yet experienced. It's not that distinguishable in my opinion, but it's worth a mention at least. But the second half of the track though, whatever starts going on with the rising and dropping of pitches, makes me feel like I'm being transported to another universe. Out with the simple Eccojam, and in with the new, more nuanced song. The transition is a bit of a jump scare, but after the hyperwarp is done, you can instantly tell you've been transferred to another world that is alien to us. The second half of the song sounds like it's been recorded on different equipment. Instead of the track being slowed, it's sped up, causing this foreign feel the song gives off. It gives off a plastic sort of feeling that begins to get stretched as it progresses. Similar to Make You Mine, it distorts as it continues to play. At one point, the song tries to hyperwarp us back, but we don't get to leave. We only travel so far with a few boosts. Eventually, the song gets stuck on a turtle in the ocean like the plastic mess that it is. Now, we've reached Daniel Lopatin's magnum opus, B4. Nobody Here samples Lady in Red by Chris Debra. What more could I say about this beautiful song? It's a 6-second loop for 2 minutes and 13 seconds. That's 133 seconds divided by 6 equals around 22. You hear There's Nobody Here around 22 times. Okay, I'm stalling with this song at this point. The truth is, I don't have much to say about it. B4 is a quintessential Eccojam. It's the most listenable track on the album. Someone made a 10-hour loop of it, and I sometimes throw it on unironically because it's so good. There's just not a lot to it. Slowed down tempo, vocals, minimalistic beat, drones in the background while you let your mind wander. It frees up so much mental space because of how predictable it is. Your mind can focus on the repetitive and lax song while simultaneously thinking of other things. I really wish I had more to say because I really feel as though this is the best track on the album. I think everyone, including new listeners to the genre, check this song out at least once. B5 World is up next. It samples Me Against the World by Tupac. Once again, a solid Eccojam. The somber mood in the track is built up so well. The pitched down voice of the lady singing in the back is full of desperation. A guitar utters a few lonely strings occasionally, and a sad melody is played on a synth. To top everything off, we have a distorted Tupac singing about being against the world and having little to lose. This incites a feeling that he is all alone in this cruel world. Something that I find that juts out about this song is that right before the ending of the loop, the next verse of the original song begins, but then it is immediately cut off by the loop starting back up. Not Lopatin's best edit. B6, Silence, samples These Dreams by Heart. Technically, the song is structured by what I would consider an Eccojam, but it doesn't have the mood of an Eccojam at all. It's not mellow. It doesn't share the feeling of droning. The vocals aren't even pitched down. The song makes me feel like I'm in an air temple in a game or something, or like there's a large pipe with a bunch of holes. The way the vocals pause after each loop is like the wind blowing through these holes and then stopping. The vocals are just so damn airy. The instruments are rather indistinguishable for the background. I don't know what to make of it other than it's just a bunch of air. One thing to note about this song is that hearing silence is sort of haunting. Keeping in with the theme of air, it's like hearing a voice in the wind. It sends chills down my spine as though someone were breathing down my neck. Also, it doesn't help that silence is the only thing I can recognize in the song. It's spooky to say the least. Finally, B7 Chains is the last song on the album. It samples 3 songs: Woman in Chains by Tears for Fears featuring Olette Adams, Letters from Spain by the Electric Light Orchestra, and Catch and Don't Look Back by Womack and Womack. The first part feels like I'm going to be taken out on an adventure. Something about the first few chords seem to hype me up, and the last note that drones on before the track loops also excites me. Like a few other songs, the more it plays, the more it distorts. Then it fades into the next part of the track. It feels lazy than the first part in comparison. Honestly, these 2 parts don't really add much in my opinion. It feels like they were just thrown in there because Lopatin had some unused tracks. They also forced me not to call this track an Eccojam, but that's about it. The meat and potatoes of this track are with the final part of the song. Like Dreams, the first part of Chains feels very airy, but gives off a black and white visual of a person in a desolate area singing into a mic. The singing is quite a unique style. It's almost as though the singer is singing in a gospel track, which is a contributor to the airy feeling I get. Not to mention, the background instruments aren't very rough or mechanical. They sound authentic. One of the noises in the back sounds like air passing through, although it's probably just some distortion. Oh yeah, and at the end of the song, it gets fed through a fan again. And with that, we close out the album. So that was an experience. To conclude, Chuck Person's Eccojams Volume 1 is an album. It's an album that pioneered the vaporwave genre with its unique styles of plunderphonics. Although compared to the later albums of the same genre, Lopatin's work is the bare bones of what one would consider vaporwave. It's as if someone had cliff noted vaporwave and had a report due tomorrow. Many of the styles have also become outdated, such as the over-reliance of sampling, distorting the vocals to a deep sunken voice, and using immense amounts of reverb. If this album were to come out in this time period, no one would look at it, as it simply just didn't do anything innovative for the genre. However, it is the stepping stone of vaporwave, and it didn't come out in this time period. It came out in 2010 and redefined what we called music. Without this album, the genre would not be what it is today. Join me next time as we explore the next album in the Eccojam subgenre.